Good morning.
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 Okay, I'm hearing a lot more energy from the online crowd than the in-person crowd. So we need to fix that. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to say good morning again, but I'm going to say it emphatically, and I want you to respond emphatically. Ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, much better. Welcome to meeting number 329 of TMG, the MAC group. Bring up the agenda here. Okay, I got the number right. 329, it's November and it's 2023. We're going to start with the welcome. Mr. Leal, do we have any visitors or new members today?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. I'm looking through the crowd. I don't see any new faces, so I'm going to say we're done with the welcome then. We're going to move on to news. How many of you know that Apple did a Halloween surprise on us this year? Okay, how many of you don't know? Okay, let's talk about what they did. So I originally planned, Rick and I originally planned for me to be presenting about the new iMacs and new MacBook Pros, because Apple, we figured they'd release the hardware when they announced iOS 17 and Sonoma, which is Mac OS 14, and the Watch OS and the TV OS, all that stuff. And they didn't do that. So we went and we went, okay, we got to rethink this. So, okay, I'll dredge up this topic I've been wanting to do for 5 years, which is media servers, since we don't have new hardware to talk about. Then right after my birthday, okay, end of October, Apple does a special surprise event, okay. And they announce not just new hardware, but new chips, new Apple Silicon chips. And they announced the M3 family of chips. The M3, the M3 Pro, M3 Max. Is there an M3 Ultra?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Probably.
And then they announced new MacBook Pros that were using these chips, a 14 and a 16-inch screen that come in that M3 Pro, M3 Max. And they also announced new iMacs using the M3 chip. Okay. Now, it's been what? How many months since they updated an iMac? It's been a long time. Long time. And this is what I've been waiting for. Because my wife's, her day-to-day machine is a 2011 iMac. And it's time for it to be replaced. So they announced those new iMacs, 24-inch screen. You either get the M3 with, well, we'll go through some details in a little bit. Or rather, I'll point you to where you can see the details on the Apple website. So if you've been looking to upgrade an older iMac, they finally have done it. Okay. For those of you who have an iMac that's a 27-inch and you really like the really big screen, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. The rumor mill says the next big iMac is probably going to be a 34-inch screen.
Wow.
But remember, this is rumors, okay? Okay, this is rumors. So we don't know what they're going to actually do, and they don't tell me. So that's some of the news that came out. More new Apple chips, and they're coming out with the chips faster than they have in the past. So you can tell Apple is rolling again. There was also a statement from not the guy in charge of the development labs, but rather the one that's in charge of the software, that they're going to hold off on other products while they focus on getting their software back to the state that Steve Jobs would have approved of. So, right now there's these little inconsistencies, and applications. If I go into the Books app, the library button is here and the other button's over here. And if I go into a different app, the library button, like a podcast, the library button's here. You know, so get everything so they all line up the same place so people don't have to look. They know, the finger will know where to tap. And I think that's a smart thing for them to do. Let's see, other new things, help me out here.
OS updates.
What I call the applesauce, that's operating systems for Apple devices. I say applesauce and people just look at me like, what are you talking about? Okay. There's an update to watchOS, there's an update to macOS, there's an update to iPad OS, there's an update to iOS, there's an update to Apple TV, there's fresh firmware for the AirPods, there's an update for the HomePod. So basically their entire line has had new stuff come on. So now we're at watchOS 10.1.1, Sonoma is macOS 14.1.1. iOS is at 17.1.1. iPad OS is 17.1.1. So you really want to look and see and do the updates. They've been out there long enough that you're not on the bleeding edge with these. Okay, these are things that fix energy usage, and it's the second time they've updated these. So they're cleaning up all the little bugs and glitches that get in there. Okay, with that said, does anybody else have any news they want to share with the members? Dan Wyckoff.
Just an update on trade-in values. Because of some slowdowns in some retail sales, Apple has increased their product rebates or their, if you trade in a device, they've increased the value about 10, 12% across the board. So they're trying to get you to trade in your old stuff to buy the new stuff.
Okay, are they still doing the trade-ins where you actually have to mail it in? You can't just take it into the store?
I don't know.
Okay, I need to find out more about that. Okay, anybody else have anything?
One
Yes.
comment on the energy aspect of the updates. I noticed right after the update to 17.1 that both my iPhone and my watch, the batteries were draining faster. Now, over the last 2 weeks or so, that effect on the phone seems to have gone away. I don't notice that change, but the watch is still draining faster than it used to before. For example, when I wear my watch during the night, I monitor my sleep. Normally before, it would be around 85% in the morning when I woke up, 100% when I went to bed, 85 when I woke up. Now it's in the 70s, 75, 78, in that range.
Okay.
So
And with the iPhone, you're seeing what?
it's what it was previously.
Okay,
I
because
was-
what I'm experiencing is the opposite. My watch seems to be using less energy overnight than the iPhone, which seems to be using more.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah. Rick?
Apple did say officially that this last update that came out this past week, whatever is that, a few days ago, was wanted on the watch that it was specifically supposed to fix that problem. Because they knew they had a problem with the watch battery being draining too fast. I experienced that myself. My watch really, it was terrible.
That's 17.1,
That is-
I guess.
Yeah.
The 0.1.1 was supposed to fix that.
Yeah.
Usually the 3 or 4 days after you put the iOS updates on the battery life, the first 3 days is terrible because everything is resyncing. So you got to expect that. But after that, it should get better. But it didn't on the watch. It was really bad. You're right. It's better now with the new update.
You done? I don't want to step on your words. You
You're
done?
right.
Okay. One of the things that I learned was after I do the update, the next day I make sure that I update all of the applications that are on the phone. Because they'll have updated stuff, and then you've got the apps working in appropriate form appropriate relationship with that operating
So you get
system.
the push notifications on
And
the apps that they have.
Since your watch mirrors the apps that are on your phone, those get updated too. And then I find I get a better result. But before, it was like, I didn't bother. I went, the app works, I'll leave it alone. And then I learned, no, I get better energy usage.
They're always updating
Okay.
when they're available.
Now, sometimes they take features out that I liked, but you can't control that. Okay, anybody else? Going once?
I'd like to ask just a quick question.
Sure.
Where is the Apple Silicon made now? Is Apple getting its chips from China yet, or are they building them here in the States?
Apple Silicon chips are currently made in 4 different countries. Apple has not been very forthcoming as to what those countries are, except to say that they are not using foundries. That's what they call the places that make the chips on mainland China. So they are not having any of their chips produced in mainland China. Part of that is, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe the Apple Silicon chips are under that ban where China's not allowed to have them.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes,
They're assembling in China and shipping from China.
they assemble, the board's already there, they put but the boards are not necessarily made in mainland China. They may be made elsewhere. Okay. I think it's more that they don't want to, be victim to the Boeing syndrome. Boeing had stuff being made in China, and then all of a sudden the Chinese are doing stuff for other competing entities. I don't believe that they've gotten anything started up in India. I do know there's still a foundry in Ireland where chips are made. There's a foundry, at least one foundry on the island of Taiwan, which, depending on who you talk to, is or is not a country. Okay.
Well,
And-
there's stories that, there's stories from Taiwan that Foxconn or whatever the name is, gets their raw materials from mainland China. But
At one
they-
time,
They ship it into Taiwan and then it's reconfigured.
yeah, at one time, Foxconn was actually wholly owned by the People's Army. Now, my understanding is they have moved away from that, where they were being funded by the PRC Armed Forces, and it's my understanding the owner of Foxconn has decided that he's bigger than the mainland, the Communist Party, and has started operations in India and may relocate himself to India. There is a foundry in Singapore, but I don't know who they produce chips from. So again, Apple designs the chip and then they farm out the manufacture to other places. They learned their lesson about supply chain. Yes, Rick?
What's happening over near Columbus, Ohio? Aren't they building?
That's Intel.
That's Intel.
But Foxconn is building a factory somewhere in the United States.
Wisconsin, and they can't finish it, and they're
Near
always arguing.
near
all the
Chicago or something.
time. Yeah, it's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And they're having trouble because it's half real, half for show, half regulations, half unions. It's just all messed up.
Yeah.
Foxconn situation in Wisconsin.
But they're in, anyway, doesn't matter. I'm not gonna go there, because then we get into politics, and we don't do politics here.
It's too.
But it's a very interesting world. I'll just put it that way. And if you're a friend of Jensen Huang, you're in a good spot. If you're a CEO of a company and you can say, Jensen Huang, when I call Jensen Huang, he answers the phone, or he comes to our place to help, because that's all that AI stuff. That's NVIDIA and AI. Okay, moving right along. I'm going to say we're done with news. We'll hold other questions for help desk, and I'll say, Dan, hit minute. Computer You want me to switch it over to the,
Apple TV, yes.
okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
This month's, this month's Home Kit Minute, and once again, is sponsored by Retreats at Rock Ridge. If you have a family reunion or a corporate retreat coming up, go to,
You're not really getting money from them, are you? Okay. Okay.
Why, would that the buck is?
I grew up in Chicago, and regardless of what Sister Elise says, the official motto of the city of Chicago is, "Where's mine?" Not "I will."
but you can go to retreats at rockridge.com. Or rockridgeretreats.com. So, Casa Wombat story. We started last month talking about some upgrades. Well, I haven't pulled the trigger on some of the things I talked about last month, but one of the problems I had is that the existing door of our new house had a smart lock on it, one that I didn't install. And it uses another system called Z-Wave. So it's a Schlage lock, which is a pretty, mainstream brand. But for one reason or another, they chose to use the Z-Wave protocol, which is not compatible with HomeKit. Until I came across this product. It's called Habitat. So instead of buying a new lock, I went out and bought this little device. It's just another hub that interfaces with all types of products you see there on the screen. That it handles Zigbee and Z-Wave, and now they have an app that you can load onto the hub that totally communicates with HomeKit. So it's not quite as elegant an interface, but it is a web browser-based interface. This is a screenshot of what I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm sorry, having a allergy moment here. So instead of the clean interface on the HomeKit, you literally have to install drivers for different products. And this is not a live screen, but this is, so you would go to the menu on the left of the screen, and go to devices, and you would put your Z-Wave device into pairing mode, and then it would pop up on the screen here, and then you could add it to this hub. And then you would do the same for a app that would be interfacing with HomeKit, and then your device, your Z-Wave device, then appears on your HomeKit menu. Now, it doesn't go the other way. You can't see anything that's already on your HomeKit menu, but any device that you've added to Habitat appears or allows you to add it to HomeKit. So all of the whole family of Z-Wave products. Now, Apple, everybody knows Apple prices are a little bit higher than normal, but you get value for what you pay. Z-Wave devices are on par, a lot cheaper, and I'll see whether you get the similar value from those products at all. But this allows you, there's literally thousands of Z-Wave based devices, motion detectors, smart switches, you name it. There's something out there in the Z-Wave family. And it allows you then to use HomeKit. If you've already established a HomeKit universe in your house, to add those devices. So just a more painless way. Now, some manufacturers, they'll probably come out with a product that is Matter compatible in the future, but for all those devices that are out there now that aren't Matter compatible, you could take this route for a lot less, let's say. So it's about $150 on Amazon, and it's working fine so far. So I'll I'll keep everybody updated. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn it back over. Switch it over. There we go.
Ian? Okay, the common complaint I get from the peanut gallery, that's the Zoomers that aren't here, is that they never can see the stuff about HomeKit Minute when Dan is talking. That's because we're switching over to the Apple TV to project to talk to the projector. And that's on my list to figure out how we can get that to show up on Zoom too. But, there's only so much stuff that my brain can hold at a time. Okay, next thing would be freebies and wanted for sale. So I will walk over to the freebie table. I don't know what's here. I'll just look up. I see 2 different graphic cards. And they seem to be NVIDIA. They're both NVIDIA and a case, a gumdrop case for a MacBook Pro 13 and a graphic card upgrade kit for a Mac Pro. If anybody's interested in those, I'm assuming the Sapphire card.
Yes.
Is that Sapphire?
Yeah.
That's for
If
sale.
if you've got a cheese grater Mac Pro 2012, or around that genre, this will upgrade to a 3 gigabyte video card. Looking
Is
for-
it metal compatible? I mean, we'll get you up where you can do the.
Yes, I had it running on Monterey, so
Okay, and you're looking how much for that?
$50.
$50? Okay. I kid with Dan, what am I buying today? It may be true today. Okay, anybody else have anything else that they brought or old stuff that they're looking to get rid of? Hand off to somebody else? Okay, very good. Ms. Treasurer, did you remember to bring your older machine for recycling? No. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll one-up you. I brought George Herzog's jacket to the meeting.
You're doing better than me.
Yep. I had to go back home to get it. I realized I didn't have it.
Seems like almost the whole club was involved. I appreciate the effort.
And just so you know how bad it was, I put the jacket on top of the case that holds the Mac that I use for presentation at the meetings. And I looked at the jacket and I said, no, I want something warmer than that. And I put on my hoodie instead and put the jacket to the side.
I won't say anything about age.
Okay, yeah, we can't say it's about any sort of medications. Okay, moving right along, we go to help desk. Has anybody run into problems recently or stuff they want to share, solutions they got? I'm going to start with John helping, because I haven't seen John in a while.
Yes, it's time for me to update my computer. For being naive, when I got my original computer, the one last 10 years ago, we were still focused on storage.
Mm-hmm.
But today's limitation seems to be in RAM because of all the dynamic functions that we're performing.
Mm-hmm.
What are the guidelines of looking at the balance? Because for guys my age, we were all taught to max out the computer with as much storage as you can. But that doesn't provide RAM capability when you're doing something other than email.
So you're replacing a MacBook Pro?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing you want to ask yourself, do I want the 14-inch screen or the 16-inch screen? Okay, that's question one. You don't answer it now, just so you've got it in your head. Keeping in mind that the resolution of the screens get better every time, so a smaller screen actually is easier to use than they have been in the past. But it's like, are you doing multiple, charts? What kind of stuff you're doing. Okay. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, which one of the new processors do I want in the machine? This would be the M3 processors.
So that's part of my naive assumption. I understand that RAM and storage are two separate cards.
No.
They're-
RAM, storage, the GPUs, the graphic processing units, the central processing units are all in that Apple chip, that Apple Silicon chip. RAM, everything is in there.
That's the new chip.
That's the new chip.
Yeah,
The M series.
The earlier ones, I think we had two separate cards. didn't we?
The earlier ones, the Intel chips, the chip came from Intel, and then there was a place for you to put RAM on the motherboard, actually, the main board.
Yeah, well, that's where, in the earlier versions, we ended up over-optimizing for storage, but we didn't get enough RAM.
Okay. The thing that I want you to put into your head, everybody put in your head, is you can't upgrade the storage on one of these things. You can't, because it's in the chip. And you can't upgrade the memory, because it's in the chip. Well, actually, the storage is actually technically over here. But it's all on the same main board, and it's like, when you buy it, that's what it's going to be. You can't upgrade them later on. Okay, so rule of thumb in the past has been you wanted to have at least 8 gigabytes of memory. Okay, and the people that were power users would want 16 gigabytes of memory. And the people that were like the video producers, they're doing lots of heavy stuff, they want to be at 32 gigabytes or above. Because the Apple Silicon chips are so much more efficient in how they move data around and how they use power, 8 today is the 16 of yesterday, and 16 today is the 32 of yesterday. So if you're a regular spreadsheet, surf the web, doing email person, 8 gigabytes will get you there. If you're one of these people where you're running multiple programs all at the same time, better to go for the 16 gig.
I'd like to introduce something I call the pedal rule, which is if you're going to lay into the gas pedal, get 16 gigs of RAM. If you're never going to lay into the gas pedal, get 8 gigs of RAM.
Right, or to put it another way, you're getting ready to get on 675, so you speed up to 35, there's your 8 gig. If you're gonna get on to 675 and you go, hey, I gotta get past that truck that's right there, and I'm gonna floor it, 16 gig.
Yeah, but there's another complication. Every time they upgrade the operating systems, they use more of the storage on the chips, including the RAM and the storage. And so you lose access to usable.
That's where you're
and it
seeing
comes down to
something
your-
very different.
Well, it comes down to this too. When you buy anything in life, you're thinking in your terms of your finances and your use of a life cycle, right? So like he's talking about which iMac are you replacing? What is it, like 2011? Is that what you said?
2011 iMac.
Right, so
and
that's-
an M3
Right.
iMac is
That's a
gonna be so
12-year
much
life
overkill.
cycle, right? So that's a 12-year life cycle. If you buy a computer on a long life cycle, then the $200 to go to 16 gigs of RAM allows you to live in 2028, 2029, 2030. So you have to think of like the bell curve of when is the sweet spot of this thing, and it's like all of us, it's not, it may have been in the rearview mirror, but at some point in our life we had our little sweet spot, right? And so what's the sweet spot of this thing? Is it 3, 4, 5 years out? And if that's the case, then maybe you want to spend the $200, amortize that over 7, 8, 9, 10 years. $200 amortized over 10 years is $20 a year. That's what you're paying. I mean, people don't necessarily think of things in terms of amortization, but that's what it is. It's $20 a year for a 10-year Mac. So do you want to lean into it or do you want to lean backwards? And it just depends on your budget.
Well, it also depends on whether you want to use a computer for 7 to 10 years. So-
Right,
so
exactly.
like
Or
a
3 to 4
car,
years.
Okay.
and you want it to be useful for most of that time.
Okay, so here's the scenario, okay? You're comfortable financially, okay? You can basically buy whatever you want, and it's not gonna break your budget because you don't have a budget anymore. What I do, I'm comfortable financially. What I do is, I buy a machine with 16 gigs of RAM, and typically I'm gonna go for the middle processor. So if you've got M2s are out, I'm going to go for the M2 Pro. If M3s are out, I'm going to go for the Pro's the middle one, right?
Yeah, now.
Okay, right now. I'd go for the M2 Pro on a laptop. So I'd do an M3 Pro, MacBook Pro with 16 gigs of RAM, and I'd probably go for 512 gigs of storage,
Given what they're charging, that's a decent
even with
spot.
what they're charging. Because I'm going to use that machine probably for a long time.
Well, what the point he's making, it's, most of us will probably have our machine for, as I said, for about 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna trade it in. But if it starts to lose functionality at the 5th year because everybody's upgrading and capturing more storage, the Word and the Excel files and that sort of thing occupy almost twice as much
That's
space.
why I go for
today.
that middle processor. The lower end processor, don't think of it as really lower end. It's so much better than the stuff that's come before. It's ridiculous. But if I go with that middle processor, I'm going to use that machine for 10 years. Okay. Plus, the other thing to remember is if I decide that I need a bigger screen, all of these machines have Thunderbolt light peak built into them where you can just slap on another monitor. You know, so you've got the 16-inch screen here and you got the 60-inch TV over here that you're using this.
Same thing with external storage with the Thunderbolt and SSDs are getting cheap and fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another thing you want to take care of is your software. If you've got a 2011 machine, most of the software probably will not work on the new machine running Sonoma. You can buy used, not used, but refurbished Macs. For example, at Mac Sales, you can buy a M1, which is this machine right here, for $17.99, and it was originally $2,700. And you can save $700 just by buying an M1 laptop, which is only 2 years old.
Yeah, it's been 2 years since I've been able to upgrade my Chrome on my machine.
Now yours is
Actually, the same
20,
thing we talked about.
John, you have what, a 2015 machine? Yes. 2015, okay. The one thing I would watch out for when buying older pre-owned equipment, didn't I state that nicely, pre-owned? Is don't buy an Intel machine. Because Intel's support is going to go away probably with the next operating system. So you want to go with something that's got Apple Silicon, M1, M2, or M3 chip. Okay. Okay. Is your brain full now?
Yes,
Okay.
it'll
Good.
be empty in half an hour.
Okay. Yeah. go.
Another thing you might consider is looking at a MacBook Air, which are much less expensive, and with 8 or 16 megs of RAM and 500 or a 1 terabyte drive, and then invest in a nice large monitor and just plug that into the MacBook Air and go that way.
Okay. Or if you travel a lot and you don't want to lug the big monitor with you, stay with the MacBook Pro, because you know you're going to be running Mathematica on it, you're going to be running your other engineering software, and you're going to be running Microsoft Office. But you buy the new Microsoft Office.
Right.
Now, I'm going to throw it out to the members. How many of you prefer to go with the subscription model of Microsoft, where you're paying $100 a year, as opposed to you pay $220 and you've got it, and you got it for till they come out with the
The
next.
nice thing about the subscription is that you can use it on 5 devices. A MacBook, phone, iPad,
PC?
PC,
Yeah.
and whoever else you want to let use it.
Yeah,
And then they do have smaller seats where you can have like 3 devices or just 1 device.
it's really designed now to be part of a suite that's in the cloud. And I do the subscription service because not only do I get the software always update, and as he said, from every angle, you can just go to the website and access everything and have it live in OneDrive, and you
Yeah.
get a terabyte. Just the personal license, which is like 60-ish, 70-ish dollars a year, gets me a terabyte in OneDrive. And I use that to balance against my iCloud, so I have redundancy there. But also, because of my work is so Microsoft centric, I use it more than I use iCloud, even though I have Macs and PCs combined. And the subscription model gives you that OneDrive too, and that 1 terabyte of cloud is a great way to not only store stuff, but like right now, I can be at anybody's house and I can bring up my family budget, or I can bring up any document, or somebody says, "Where's that picture of your grandpa we're always talking about?" I can bring that up as part of Microsoft or whatever, just like iCloud.
And for some people, that advantage you just said would be a nightmare. No, if you're
Sure,
a lawyer,
yeah,
if you're a
over-
healthcare professional, if you're under HIPAA or other
That's true.
type,
Yeah, I don't put anything work
you
related.
have to be, you have to be very careful about it. So some of the people that I still advise, air quotes, are doing stuff where they basically can't be connected to the internet when they're doing it. And for them, it's better to have just a one-time purchase of Office. Okay, but I think you convinced me I should go with the subscription. Okay, anything else for help desk? Okay, we go to George. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all
You
right.
did have your.
No, his last question was really informative. Mine is
Yeah.
lower level. We had a side discussion on photos that I didn't get an answer to. I thought I'd just bring it up. I'm used to developing some content and putting it on a folder in my Microsoft Office in my own folder. When I do with iPhotos, it seems like maybe this is philosophical, maybe I don't understand what's happening, but the photos are in the application, it seems like, iPhoto.
They're in a database that only the application has access to.
The library.
Is there any virtue in taking those photos and putting them into my own folders?
If you prefer folder-based management for photos, then you want to use a product like Lightroom from Adobe, or what's the one? It's
On one.
the Express group, where it's Photoshop and Premiere.
Adobe.
Create a suite.
Shoot. PSD, Photoshop Express, anyway, but those are folder-based. Folder-based,
The separate application?
right.
Where is the real picture? Because I've been puzzled since the very beginning of iPhoto
Okay.
events I've got.
You know how you'll take, you're in Photos, Apple Photos,
Right.
and you're changing a little bit of the contrast, and you're maybe cropping something, or you're doing this, and you're doing that. That photo is considered to be a document which has different versions. And the photo library has the original and the modification copies and a thumbnail, which is what it used when it displays it to you. And they're all in that database. And real photographers they go crazy with that. They go, no, I have to have my folder where I keep the raw versions in here and I keep this in here. And for that sort of stuff, you really ought to look at Lightroom, or there's another one, I'm trying to remember the other people, the other photo app.
On one,
On one
On
has
one.
Lightroom.
Yeah.
Like one, and then Affinity has
Infinity Photo.
Affinity Photo.
Apple had at one time, and
Yeah.
this is sour grapes, so don't listen if you don't want to hear negativity. But Apple had a program called Aperture that would have ruled the photography market, except they killed it. Why they killed it, I do not know. I mean, there's a guy I know from the newspaper, he's got 2 Pulitzers for photos. Okay, 2 Pulitzer Prizes, Larry Price. And he was like one of the consultants to Apple about aperture. And he's also one of these Nikon guys, where Nikon pays him money to go places and take pictures. Okay, so he's top of his tier. He couldn't believe that they threw away what they had. That they just threw the program aperture away. They just gave up that whole professional photography market.
One of the engineers from Aperture went off and built a, a plugin that you can use with photos that gives you a whole lot of the aperture capability back.
But you're still limited in that it's in the database.
Right.
When I take one of those photos and put it in multiple iPhoto folders that are created, does each one occupy memory space, or is there an alias or a pointer that goes back to some version?
There's
Listen,
only
I got
one,
right next
there's
to
only
it.
one,
Yeah.
but it's got, yeah, pointers or whatever that puts it wherever you want it to be. It's referencing that same location from all of those.
And that's, where is that contained? Is that in the iPhotos events, or?
No,
You can't get to it.
I think that's labeled Photos Library.
Oh.
That's where stuff actually resides. And then there's different, it's like the Holy Trinity. I always love to say that because people go, wait a minute, the Holy Trinity is a mystery and can't be explained. So it's 3 but in 1. So you've got the photo is actually in the library, the database, but it will appear in this album and that person and in that place and in,
You can have multiple libraries.
yeah.
But if I wanted to get rid of the photo, I would go to the library and drag it out of there, or
You would select the photo in the library
in the library?
and hit your delete, and it would then move it into the deleted photo.
Through photos,
Photos.
because you can't see,
Yes.
you don't know what the contents of the library file is just by
No.
trying to look at it outside of photos.
Apple's philosophy is you can't be trusted with your photos. Just like music, Apple Music, you can't be trusted with your music. With your Books app, you can't be trusted to mess around with your books.
Photos are so important to the raison d'etre of iPhones that they decided that they were going to hide it behind a document management system and not let you see the files like any other file. If you go back to the dawn of the Finder and 84 Mac, the Finder is a really big deal. It's an important part of the file system. Here's the files, they live on the desktop, there you go. Fast forward 25, 30 years later, photos are so important, they did not trust randos walking down the street to understand how to manage them. So they tricked the whole situation by forcing it into a document management system they call the Photos Library and Photo System and Photos and iPhoto, so that you have no choice but to deal with them as a privileged special type of data. Behind the scenes, they're a file like anything else, but they're hiding it from you in a document management system whether you like it or not. Apple's decided that's how you deal with photos.
Another example, the program Apple Books. In the past, with audiobooks, you would use them in Apple iTunes, which they killed. iTunes is gone. Okay? And you had a folder that your audiobook would actually be in. And the folder was usually the name of the person who had, written the story or was narrating the story. In Apple Books, it's hidden away in a folder that you do not have access to. The only way you can delete an audiobook from Books is to bring up Apple Books, click on the little 3 dots over to the side, and then you can remove it. But let's say the information on that audiobook is wrong. The title's messed up, or the author is messed up, or the narrator's, you don't have access to any of that metadata. Where in iTunes, I could just say, oh, composer is this, and the narrator is this, and the title should be this, and it's, book 1 of 5 in the series. They don't trust you anymore.
Just as a segue, does PowerPoint work somewhat the same way with its own management system?
Not really.
No, PowerPoint, the files go where you want them.
Okay.
The thing to watch out for if you're on a Windows machine is Microsoft loves to slam stuff up to their storage space, their version of iCloud. Okay. Yes, Lenore?
My husband and I share users on our 27-inch desktop. When I logged in to my side, I was trying to clean up my photos in iPhoto, eliminate them. And I was doing them maybe 20 or 30 at a time after I selected. Somehow my iPhoto froze. And so each time, I have tried resetting, I've done all the usual, and each time I go into iPhoto, it locks onto just one photo. So I checked and made sure I logged out, I logged into Dan's, and his iPhoto is just fine. So I am reluctant to like delete iPhoto and then try to
Okay,
bring it back.
is it actually iPhoto or is it Photos?
No, it's the old iPhoto.
The old iPhoto.
So it is locked, and that's why I was trying to clean it up.
I'm trying to remember, there was a magic key press you could do when launching iPhoto that would rebuild the data, rebuild the,
Wasn't it either option or control?
I'm thinking it was optional.
Option,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, that lets you load another
And
library,
select
doesn't it?
iPhoto and see if that does the rebuild.
Okay, and is it usual that it would not affect iPhoto on when Dan logs into his?
Yeah,
I
because-
don't want to damage what,
There's technically two separate
Yeah.
computers.
Okay.
You've got two separate,
well, we haven't separated. I mean, isn't there sometimes you can separate with a wall and then you have two different ones, or
you
is it?
still do.
It's just a log,
Yeah.
we're just logging in and out as
Yeah,
different users.
yeah.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
computer can sit, it just, when you've got two different users, you've got two different computers.
Oh, I see, that's wonderful. Okay, so that's why he's not affected by whatever I've done, and I can try to use option and then start.
Start, I think. is
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Doesn't options
If you do
let you
that with
load a
the
different
old
library?
iTunes app, it'll ask whether you want to create a new library or you want to open
Yeah.
some other library.
And what do I want to do?
This is for iTunes,
Oh, for
not
iTunes,
iPhone,
right, okay,
iTunes.
thank you.
Yes,
Another thing I would suggest for anybody is in photos or iPhotos, whatever, is you can export the entire library onto a backup drive. Okay? In the new photos, you go to File, select, well, first off, you want to select the photo. You go into your library, click on one of the files, and then hit Apple A, or Command A, which means all. And it'll select the entire library.
Okay,
And in my particular case, they go to File, Export, and you select Export Unmodified Originals. And what it does is it takes all those photos that you put in that have the original data, the original size, they have not been touched by editing, and you can export them onto your computer, onto an external drive. And for example, like there, I've got 2,959 items. You hit that, and then you can select how you want to export them, where you want to, where you want to export them to. And you just export the entire picture in the drive and just save it. If something does happen, you've got the original files from the data we created.
could I use it in a flash drive, like the one?
Yeah, if you've got enough space.
Okay,
and the reason you want to use a flash drive is so that you don't have those extra copies on the same home folder of your user folder,
Right.
because then you're making
You want to get
duplicates.
it off your computer completely, so if your computer goes to hell in a handbasket,
right.
Yeah,
you've got all your pictures, period.
Oh, and see, I was doing it piecemeal because I thought I didn't want to overload the computer, but now I
Well,
see.
you might, I mean, if you've got 10,000 pictures, it may take you, you may have to let it run overnight to do it.
Okay.
It depends on the size. If you're shooting pictures in RAW, they're gonna be extremely large files. If they're all just JPEGs, they won't be quite as large.
All right, so I Command A and get all of them, and then
Well,
where
when
do
you
I
go
go?
into your library,
Right,
you select one file and then hit Command A, which is a shortcut for all. And
Right.
it selects all of them in the library.
and then,
And they'll all have a blue line around it.
right, and then
And then you go to File,
file, okay,
click on Export,
export.
and then you can either export or export unmodified.
Okay.
There's two choices.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay.
One, I thought, located on someplace in the,
Haven't gotten there
okay,
yet.
that kind of information would be extremely useful for us if
Yeah.
we're putting up to get automated.
This is the stuff, this is the stuff that used to be in a book called the Mac Bible, and they'd come out with a new version with every operating system, and this would be my standard reference manual, but they don't do it anymore, so, you know.
I'm gonna
Okay.
cheat one more time. You
Sure.
mentioned Discord. I wasn't able to get on Discord. Does anybody else have a problem with that?
I have not had problems with that. I would talk to the gentleman right next to you.
Did you,
Because
we can send you a new
he
invite.
is my Discord expert.
Such as it is.
Okay, and
Probably need an
while
invite.
George is doing that, I've got one other thing I want to add to people, and that is, if you don't want to back up your iPhone to iCloud, you want to back up your iPhone to like an external hard drive where you can see exactly what you got, there's a program called iAmazing. iAmazing, it's in the Apple Store.
You connected right now?
Whatever you got, you
Yes, I
just
will.
gave it to me. It's your fault.
There's no.
Updates itself from.
No.
iAmazing.
Amazing.
You have to go to
Okay.
get activity and the try.
This thing will not only check your iPhone for spyware, it'll give you battery diagnostics, it'll let you back up just what you want to back up. It could be text messages, it could be ringtones, it could be your address book, your photos. You have complete control over it. And it's so neat, I think we may do a meeting on it. Yes?
Is it iMazing Profile Editor or the iMazing Converter? There's two choices.
Go to imazing.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the letter I or the word I?
The letter I, imazing.com. imazing.com. Okay. With that said, do we have anybody else that's got a help desk issue? People are doing good? Yeah, and Bill Wharton is the one that showed me that program, so, and I was like, yeah, okay, another program. And then I started working with it, I went, oh, damn, this thing is good. Because sometimes you just don't want to put stuff in iCloud, you know? And sometimes you don't want to put more stuff on, you don't want to just back it up to your local machine. You want to back it up to an external hard drive where you can, you know, or external flash drive where you can put it away. Okay, so with that said, we're done with help desk, so it's time for the raffle.
Hey, we got a question
Raffle?
over here. I think somebody, Bill,
Say again.
Louise got her hand up.
I'm doing. You got a question, Louise?
Unmute yourself.
Please, Louise. You have to unmute.
Unmute yourself.
Okay. I've been having trouble with my new iPhone 15. It's not Pro, but I don't have voicemail. So I called Consumer Cellular and they finagled with it, but I still don't have voicemail. So how do I get I don't know how to get voicemail. They told me to go to an iPhone store. But I don't drive anymore. That's why I have to always do Zoom. So That would be really a pain in the neck to go to an iPhone store.
Typically, the cell phone service provider is responsible for handling where people leave you a message. You know, they couldn't get you and they leave you a message.
Yeah, I can have voicemail.
Have the reports take and cancel their iPhone or their voicemail, then your phone ought to pick it up.
My phone doesn't pick it up. If you call me, you don't get voicemail. It says that my voicemail is not set up.
Are you at the end of your contract with them?
No.
Who's your
Consumer Cellular. And I called them about it, and they said it's fine. And I said, it's not fine. I can't get my voicemail to work. And they said, well, it's there. And I said, no, it's not. So I
What's
keep
this-
arguing.
Not working is a concept. What specifically is wrong? What does not working mean to you?
What does it mean? It means that when somebody calls me, they can't use voicemail.
So it doesn't matter. So your iPhone can talk to it fine. It's just that when someone calls you, it never shows up on your iPhone?
Right, they don't have voicemail.
Can you answer a call?
They get a message saying it's not there. There is no
That's consumer
voicemail.
cellular. Having worked at a call center in various capacities for a long time, it sounds like consumer cellular is incorrect in telling you it's not their problem. Your phone basically is a slave to what happens in the cloud, to what happens at their thing. When someone calls and actually talks to your voicemail, that has nothing to do with your phone. That is handled by the call center software that they're running to do the voicemail on their end. And then when it's complete, then it sends it to your phone. So if step one is that the person is unable to leave it, there is nothing anybody in this room can do to help you because that's happening at a consumer cellular level.
Okay. I've had
Okay.
a person that I know
More than
uses what I call burner phones. They go to Kroger and they just buy a phone and they use it for a certain period of time. And when they first get it, and I call them, I'll get that voicemail is not set up. And what it meant in his case, which may be different than yours, Louise, was that they had not set up a voicemail message.
Right.
Yeah.
And because they didn't set up a voicemail message, it wouldn't accept voicemail.
Yeah, and I try to set up a voicemail message and I get a message back that I've got to go to some kind of iCloud.
When
I
you
gotta go to iCloud.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that we take this off meeting and kind of, Bill, are you willing to work with Sister Louise?
My point is, did she ever back up her old iPhone to the cloud?
Probably not.
Because it does it automatically if you set it up.
Yeah, probably not, Bill.
Because if you did, you could plug your phone into your Mac and restore your new phone from that backup, which probably would bring all that information over.
Yeah.
That's.
I'm not sure that-
I think
I'm not sure that-
he's right, that it's got something to do with consumer cellular.
Sister Louise, you're down in Cincinnati now?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down in Cincinnati.
Do you have anybody tech savvy in your community down there?
I'll try one of our persons, but they don't come in till Monday.
Okay. Because it's somebody that really has to sort of, they have to be with you and your phone, and you gotta,
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, I'll touch base with you later on in the week just to see where you're at.
Okay,
Okay?
all right,
Okay, if you don't hear from me, call me.
all right,
Okay, like maybe Wednesday, Thursday?
okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay,
All right.
we're gonna move on to the raffle. So we're just gonna, okay, that was our moment of silence. Time to start with this. Mac-based media server. Okay, come on. There we go. Okay. My problems and my solutions. Okay. There are people who think we are a scientific organization, TMG Data. We're not. We're an educational institution, and mostly, people don't realize this, we educate through personal stories. Okay, so this is a personal story. I don't want you to focus on the pain and the anguish and the cognitive dissonance that I went through. What I want you to focus on that this is how we take technology and we apply it to make our lives better. And then we have to adapt as the technology changes. So, to start with, I really love music, and that's a problem. I had lots of vinyl records and reel-to-reel tapes and cassettes and compact discs, and it was all music. It was hard to use my music being spread across so many media types. To get more music enjoyment, I needed to get more control over my music. And I did the thing, the Sony jukebox with the 50 CDs, and having a catalog system for my vinyl records. And once in a while, I would try to put order into my cassettes with my old-time radio shows that were on it. And the reel-to-reel stuff, it would just, I'd pull one out and I'd just put it on the thing and I'd play it. And it was okay, but I just knew that I never could find something when I wanted to listen to it. Then came the age of digital music. Okay, Steve Jobs and iLife, and Apple created iTunes and the iPod, and I went, wow, this is a way I can get control of my stuff. Okay. And so I decided to digitize my vinyl and my tapes and my CDs, and back in the day, I did a couple presentations for the club on how I had a USB turntable so I could record my vinyl records directly through USB. And so then iTunes replaced my hi-fi, and the iPod replaced my Walkman, and life was good, and so was the music for many years. Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm losing control of the presentation here. Okay, I'm going to sit down and do it. Okay, so then came iCloud and the age of digital streaming. And Apple killed the iPod, and they killed iTunes, and they reduced the size of the storage in our Macs, because Cupertino assumed you would use iCloud Drive and Apple Music and you would be happy. I was not happy. Okay, so explain why this isn't a working solution for me. My current listening library has grown with time to more than 50 playlists, and that's handled. 800 artists, 50,000 songs, which span over 4,000 albums. And I don't buy just the one song, I buy the album. So it's more than 100 times larger than the free 5 gigabyte version of iCloud Drive. It's a 600 gigabyte of music, just music. Plus I have audiobooks. plus I have photos, plus I have movies and videos. So we're talking about 2 terabytes of data. I'm not spending that money to store that stuff up in the cloud. On top of that, the music app that Apple came out to replace iTunes, as far as I'm concerned, it's poorly designed to handle my music collection and my treasured playlists. I don't have control over my metadata in it. Okay, so I went, oh crap, what am I going to do? Well, one of the things I could have done was just stay with a legacy machine that was running a, like a Snow Leopard operating system and keep an old version of iTunes and keep an old version of this and that and just continue that way. But, this stuff gets old. And a 2006 iMac, it's pushing it a little bit. Okay, so any questions about where we are in the story so far? Okay, we're good. Okay. So I thought, well, what if I did my own media server? All right, now, most of you have no idea what a media server is, so I'm just going to bloviate here for a little bit. So it's a computer with special software that can centralize, organize, and deliver multimedia. When they say multimedia, they're talking photos, videos, music, and other digital content. It would be like audiobooks, music videos, all sorts of stuff. Okay. Making them accessible. Okay. So you want to watch something, you want to use something, you want to listen to something on smart TVs, streaming devices. That would be things like Chromecast, Fire TV, Roku's, any of that sort of stuff, Bluetooth speakers, okay, other devices, those are streaming devices, computers, and mobile devices. So that would be your iPhone, your iPad, your Android tablet, your Android phone, all that sort of stuff. So in other words, it's a computer that's going to hold all of this stuff and then will vend it to you like a jukebox to the device where you want to use it. So if you're up in a guest bedroom and you want to watch a movie, you can do that on your TV because the movies are all stored by and held by this computer. If you want to listen to a group like Elbow, Let's Build a Rocket Boys, and you want to listen to that in your office, you can tell your media server to start playing it in the speakers that are in the office. Okay, so that's what a media server is all about. Now, media servers don't have to run on the fastest, most powerful computer in your house. They can run on some pretty low-end equipment. But your expectations and the media you watch basically are going to guide your choices about how hefty the hardware has to be. If all you're doing is music and you're doing video, old VHS TV shows, you don't have to have something that's blazing fast. I was using a 2006 iMac with 2 gig of RAM running Snow Leopard as a media server for a good 10 years. And that thing was fine until we started doing 4K, Blu-ray movies in that. And then I just moved up to a machine that was running Lion. Okay? So if you're mostly concerned with music or streaming, the 1080p stuff, and you're not really concerned about the best image quality, you can get away with really old hardware. Okay, and then I say, my first media server was a 2006 Intel iMac OS X 10.6, aka Snow Leopard. I think one of the best operating systems Apple came out up until Sonoma. Okay, so what are the functions of a media server? Storage, organization, streaming, transcoding, remote access, and user interface. Okay, storage, it's got to hold the stuff, the music. Now, with a media server, you don't have to have a huge hard drive in the actual computer. You can have your media on other devices external hard drives, or other network things that are out there. Okay? But again, it's got to be able to hold the library. So your movies, TVs, music, photos, all that stuff. Organization. It's going to categorize and organize your multimedia for easy navigation and retrieval. That means when you're looking for your music, you can say, hey, the artist is this, or the album name is this, or the song name has this in it, or it's from this year, and it'll be able to find it. Or if you're talking about movies, you can say, Rock Hudson's in it, and it was from somewhere in the 80s, and I vaguely recall it was from MGM, and it would be able to find that particular movie that you've already digitized and serve it up to you. Streaming. It's got to be able to distribute this media to the other devices on your network. So in other words, are you going to be listening to music on Bluetooth speakers, or are you going to be playing it out of your big home theater rig? Are you going to be watching movies on your iPad, or are you going to be watching them on your Mac, or are you going to be watching them on your Windows machine, or you're going to be watching them on your phone, you're going to be watching them on a TV, what are you going to watch them on? Well, it's got to be able to handle those. It's got to be able to send it to whichever one it is. And then it's got to be able to do what's called transcoding. Now, transcoding is where the media server really comes, that's its real function. Because it's going to look at how is the movie scored? What file format is it in? Is it an MKV file? And I'm going to be playing it on a 4K TV, and it's going to do transcoding to convert that media file to a appropriate form that gets streamed to that device. Okay, so it's doing transcoding. This is where codecs come in, C-O-D-E-C. And then remote access, providing the capability for users to access their media library from anywhere, even outside the home network. So there are people who use media servers from a particular company where their buddy has 10 gigabytes of movies, or maybe 10 terabytes of movies on a hard drive at their house, but they're able to watch it at their house through the wonders of the internet. Okay, and then last but not least, user interface, offering a user-friendly interface for browsing and interacting with the media library. And here, it's very much the metaphor of the remote control, and the remote control, changing channels, changing from, I want music, I want movies, I want videos, I want to do photos, show me photos from 2016. So you've got Macs that came with remote controls, like the early iMacs and some of the Mac Minis, really come into their own because you've already got a remote control that works with. So interface, user interface. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, I can tell some of you are meditating deeply. Okay, so what are the choices regarding the media server? So you got to pick your media server hardware. Is it going to be a Linux box, a Mac OS box, or a Windows box? Because the media server software typically works on Windows, it works on Mac OS, it works on Linux. So what have you got in the way of old equipment around the house that you want to use? Okay. And then choosing your media server software. Now, I'm going to focus on just 3 today, and I'm not really going to go very deep into them, and that's Kodi and Plex and UMS, okay, which is Universal Media Server. But there's a whole bunch of other ones out there, MB and Jellyfin, there's 7 big ones that are out there. And then last but not least, choices you need to think about is what kind of devices are you going to be watching or using this media on? Okay, if you're going to be using it on your iPad, you're going to need to have a client application or a web browser on your iPad that works with that media server software. Okay, and the thing I like about Kodi, Plex, and UMS, is they all have these clients that will work on your phone, or work on your iPad, or work on your Android tablet. So those are some of the things you need to think about. Okay. So let's just roll through the big three right now. First one is Kodi. Free and open source media player. It lets you play and view most videos, music, podcasts. And when they say music, that means like multi-format. It doesn't have to be an iTunes format. It doesn't have to be an MP3. It can be a FLAC. It can be an Ort Vorbis. It can be AAC. There's a whole bunch of different file formats. The media server will just go, oh, okay, it's in the music folder, and it's this artist and that, and it'll just vend it to your speakers. It'll just do it. Okay. And other digital media files from your local and your network storage and from the internet. So a lot of these media server software applications that they're going to run your server also have add-ons you can put on. So like you can bring in weather forecasts on your user interface where it'll show you what the weather forecast is at the bottom. Think of like if you got cable TV and you've got, you're on looking at what's available at that particular time, the directory for, what channels are and what's on them, and you'll see a weather forecast bar at the bottom. You can do that with all three of these streaming services. Plus, they allow you to connect your data to internet sources like the Internet Movie Database, or Music Brains, or CDDB, used to be called Graceland. So you've put in your music, but when the media center software looks at it, it goes out and it says, oh, wait a minute, you don't have cover art for that album. Let me bring it in and display the cover art. And oh, you got the year wrong. This is actually from 2002, not 2003. And these are the people who are actually on the songs. It's Drake featuring, Taylor Swift, whatever. Okay, and Kodi is available and works on Windows machines, Mac OS, and Linux machines. Okay, and it evolved from a thing called XBMC, Xbox Media Center. Plex is another one of these. So we just did Kodi, now we're talking about Plex. Basically the same thing, except Plex comes in both a free and a subscription form. And I'm not really sure, if I was doing this presentation in the future, I probably wouldn't use Plex, because they're turning into more and more of a commercial streaming service. So like, if you've got a media server set up with Plex, it's going to show you first what it has available to buy or rent in the way of movies or music, etc. And then you have to go in a couple screens to get to your own library. So, but they have some really, really solid internet services that are attached to this. And again, available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And then a third choice, Universal Media Server. This is open source software. Okay. And again, it allows you to stream media content from your computer to various devices in your home network. It's designed to be a universal solution compatible with a wide range of devices, including smart TVs, gaming consoles, Blu-ray players, and more. Both Plex and Universal Media Server also, because they're, and Kodi also, also the ability to bring in games to your console from either that you've got stored on your network or that are somewhere out there on the internet. So that also is getting thrown into the mix. Questions?
Now, these programs are things you download to a home computer.
All three of them are, you go to their website, you click on, you want it for Mac OS, or you want it for Windows, you want it for Linux. You're downloading a DMG file, When it's in your computer, you double click on it, it opens up like a virtual CD, virtual disk, and then you drag the application into your applications folder. And then from there, you launch the program, and all three of them assume, if they're on a Mac, that your photos are going to be in the Photos folder, your movies are going to be in your Movies folder, and your music is going to be in your iTunes library. Yeah.
But if I'm putting this on an older Mac, it doesn't have access to the internet anymore, what do I do?
Okay, but see, it has access to your network.
Yeah,
Well, you don't have to use those internet services. You can just use it as a music streamer. So all it has to be able to do is connect
but I
to
mean,
your
to
network.
get the Kodi in the first place.
Oh, SneakerNet. You download it, you put it on a flash drive.
Yeah,
Okay, it's on a flash drive, you plug it into the old Mac, you drag it into the applications folder.
yeah, okay.
Okay, there you go.
And that gets you around any security issues on an older piece of equipment that doesn't have security protection?
Sure, yeah. I mean, there are some machines I have that I would not connect to the internet anymore. Because the operating systems, like Windows for Workgroups 3.1.1, yeah, I have an internet there's some Windows stuff in there. I don't think they were calling them DLLs back then, that'll let it connect to the internet. But that would be the internet back in 1994, 1995. And that's a very different place than from now. Okay, last thoughts. Okay. First, your best use of your old, now this is where, people don't think about it, but an iMac, a MacBook Pro, a Mac Mini, any of those work just fine for a server. I personally like to use old laptops as media servers because the keyboard's there, the screen's there, and with some of my laptops, I got a remote control that works with it. Plus, I can hook on all sorts of storage stuff to it if I want to. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're running at least Mac OS 10.13 High Sierra, that means you can run the latest versions today of Kodi, of Plex, and of UMS. Okay. So, yeah, you can do it on an older machine like Snow Leopard or Lion or Mavericks or Sierra, but if you can, go up a little level, you're going to get a better result, I think. Next one is Kodi is the best for new users. It's the simplest setup, and it's totally free. Kodi can be integrated with HomeKit, and I'm not going to go into that in depth. And Kodi has iPad, iPhone, Apple TV client apps. So you can use Kodi with Apple TV, you can use Kodi with your iPad, you can use Kodi with your phone. Okay. Plex has free and subscription versions. They're becoming more commercial as time passes. They're turning into more of a streaming service like Tubi or Pluto. I don't really recommend Plex, even though it is very powerful, because they're getting, as they continue to go on, you can tell they're looking for cash, which means they're reducing what you can do in the free version. And then Universal Media Server, it's the most powerful, but it's the most difficult to set up. Some programming may be required. So if you're not comfortable writing your own code, writing your own little special add-ons to be able to do various things, you probably don't want to do UMS. Both Kodi and Plex, there are a whole range of these add-ons you can put in. So, for example, things that'll look at your music library and they'll categorize everything and they'll correct any of the names that are wrong in the song titles, whatever. That'll put, the full cast in your movie library and, the sort of photos that they would have when they release a movie, that kind of stuff. Photos that will identify photos that you've downloaded from the internet and actually tell you where it was originally taken, who was the original photographer, that kind of stuff. Other things like being able to access streaming channels that may or may not be legal to access. Okay, so that's one of the things the folks at Cody are really careful about. The folks at Plex were less careful about, and so you had people setting up Plex boxes and selling them with these things that would bring in soccer games from Europe that weren't supposed to be brought in, etc. Okay, so did that sort of answer the question? I found that I could set up a Cody server, download the app 3 minutes, put the app in the application folder a minute, launch the app, have it look and scan in my library. I'd start out with a small library just to test it, like 50 movies, maybe 1,000 songs, and maybe 2,000 photos, and let it chew and scan them and do all that beautiful stuff on it. Make sure it was working, and then configure my iPad to do it, and then go in and make sure that I could access it from my Roku and my Amazon device and my Chromecast devices.
How does it find those things? Is it going to look at all computers that are connected to the network, or is it going to have that on in residence?
There's a service that Apple calls Bonjour.
Yeah.
That is ZeroConf is the actual name that HP invented. You go into your Cody app and you go into the settings. Now you got to remember, when you're working with Cody, pretend you got your TV remote in. So you're doing left and right arrows, up and down, and you're doing the escape key to go back. Like hitting the menu button to go back. And you go into where you've got your system set up, and basically you turn on ZeroConf, and then it says, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to broadcast. And for iPads, you put in a default name, username, and a default password.
That's in the client app.
Yeah. No, this would be on the server, and then when you launch the client app, it looks for it on the network, and then prompts you to put in the password for it. If you're doing a Roku box or an Amazon Fire TV or a Google Chromecast, it's using a different way of sending data, and that's DLNA, if I remember correctly. And there, you would go to, on Roku, you would go to your Roku media browser, and it would show you the Cody server that's on your network, and then you just click, and then you select, do you want movies, do you want music, or do you want photos? And then it just walks you through the file structure. If you use a Cody app on the iPad, it's a much richer experience. It's like, selecting what do you want to watch on cable TV, where you scroll through the channel selections, then just click on the thing you want. But one of the things I learned is you don't throw a huge multimedia library at it to start. You just throw a couple things, and then you learn how to set up the various things. Because it's got to scan your stuff and build its own little database of the music, of the movies, and then if you've got the internet modules turned on, then it's got to talk to those Internet Movie Database and Music Brains to put in all the other metadata that you want to have with it.
So you have to have enough storage attached to the server to handle all of that information.
Well, see, that's why you start small, because then you don't have to have any external
But I
storage.
mean, if you already have all this information on another computer, your home computer, let's say, or your laptop, now you're going to have a new copy of all of that, maybe configured differently, on the server with Cody in charge. But you still haven't gotten rid of all that other stuff that you have on the first.
Well, the thing, what I would suggest is put Kodi on your current laptop, where all the stuff already is, and learn how it works there. And spend a little bit of time deciding whether you want to do it or not, and how easy it is. With me, because my music library is so large, it takes it a full day and a library. It would take about 4 days. I really love movies too, so I've got a lot of movies. Okay, now, normal people, which I'm not, only have maybe, 1,000 songs that they listen to that they really care about. And they've only got maybe 2,000, 3,000 photographs, and maybe they only got like a handful of movies. So for them, they could just, put it on the current computer that's got that stuff, fire it up, and turn it on as a media server when they want to be watching it on the big screen TV instead of the laptop. See what I'm saying, Dick? Yeah. It's like, as I get older, I get more and more impatient, and I'm less likely to slog through something.
Yeah, there's a trade-off between how much pain and suffering you want to go through to set up something like this that you have total control over, that you have absolute control over the content and everything, versus a streaming service that you may have to pay a monthly fee for,
Yeah.
but you get a lot of the same flexibility. You can
Yeah.
create playlists, you can designate which performers and which albums you want to see periodically or constantly.
Yeah.
I would say that for audio, that works, because Spotify or Apple Music's coverage is so universal, but for video, it's getting so fractious. Like if I like Star Wars and I like Ghostbusters, right? Your solution of having a Plex server, I can watch them both. But there is no service anywhere in the world that you can simultaneously subscribe to and get Ghostbusters and Star Wars and Back to the Future, because one is Disney, one is Paramount, and one is whatever Sony's doing.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that you can do it for music. I use Spotify and I'm happy. But I have no way to get all that video in one spot unless you make a Plex server.
Or in my case,
Or
with
you subscribe
movies.
to all of those services.
Right, that's true. Yeah, that's
In
true.
my case, with movies, I have movies that are on my media server that are no longer commercially available. A French movie, Cousin Cousine, which, it went out of being available somewhere in the late 1970s. It hadn't been available for, 30 years. Or Criterion movies, that are the original, cuts. But the main use that I have with it is when the grandkids are over, boom, I've got all of the classic Warner Brother cartoons, and I've got, the movies that I know they're gonna like, and they're available for them. And I don't have to dig out the VHS and the VHS tapes. It's already there. It's already
Oh, you still have
digitized.
those, you didn't get rid of them, huh?
You never get through with anything.
Yeah, well, those those
You see,
DVDs.
there's
DVDs,
those
and-
training tapes.
VHS tapes are becoming more valuable every day.
Yeah, I know. There's those training tapes I did when I was at Rand that I watch every so often just to shake my head, going like, oh man, was I stupid? Anyway, now I'm not saying a media server is for everyone, because you have to have your stuff already digitized, already set to go.
Well, in a way, I have it already, because from my Apple TV, I can connect it to my computer, and my computer's got the movie and music files on it. And I can bring it up on the Apple TV and say, I want to play this music, I want to play this movie.
Yeah, yeah,
But the scope, I don't have the extensive library you have.
yeah.
So if
But
I
the
need
thing
an
is,
extensive library, I
you
go
know,
to the streaming service.
you've got something
right
on
now.
you have something on the laptop, and you want to watch it on the big screen TV.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to run your media server 24/7. You can just fire it up when you want to be able to watch stuff that's on your laptop on the big screen TV, and you don't want to do AirPlay.
It also doesn't sound wife compatible to me right now, too, so. Any additional complexity to the use of remote controls or switching screens is
Okay,
definitely
the
not-
way I got around
not
that
in the cost.
was really simple, Vic. I just tell her it's another streaming service. And I say, okay, you already have the TV turned on and the Roku's on. Go to the Roku Media app and just click where it says movies and then just scroll through and pick which one.
Your wife's more advanced than my wife is, okay? Anytime we have to go off of regular broadcast TV, it's coming through.
You're talking about
DirecTV.
over the air?
No, well, it's the same service you get over the air, but it's coming from DirecTV.
Yeah.
Anytime that we depart from the DirecTV remote and the DVR that goes with DirecTV, then she doesn't know what to do, and then I've got to do the switching over to get Apple
Well,
TV.
see, what's nice about a media server is I'm just using the one remote, the Roku remote, to bring it up. The other thing that's nice is you can be doing, music streaming to more than one, you can pick which speakers it's going to. So if I'm trying to get my steps in and I'm walking circles in the first floor of the house, I'll have the kitchen speaker turned on, the living room speaker, the dining room speaker. But she may be playing something entirely different up in her project room from the same media server. Again, not for everyone, but it's a way to use older equipment and keep it out of the landfill. Yes, George?
This is a little bit off path, but I want to recommend a song that you do not have. I'm sure you don't have it. It just makes me laugh and feel good.
Yeah.
Okay? You can find it on YouTube. Okay? And it's called the John Deere Polka.
John Deere Polka. I can truthfully say, I don't have it. I thought you were
I
going to say.
recommend you go home and try it.
Okay,
It'll make you feel good.
okay. I thought you were going to say it was something like I Love Onions by Susan Christie. Okay. Or maybe some of the Spike Jones stuff.
Oh my goodness,
Mark
I haven't
that
thought of
tune.
Spike Jones.
Yeah. I'm very eclectic. I love jazz. I love big band. I love EDM. I love
Magdalena
new
Bay.
age. I love world music.
Artist recommendation, Magdalena Bay. You haven't heard. Magdalena Bay, if you haven't listened to that artist, it's a new EDM, young.
No.
Magdalena Bay.
Okay.
Anyway, I recommend go home, try the YouTube John Deere Polka.
Yeah. And if, one for all of you, if you like a group that's sort of bluesy jazz and they've got a singer who can really belt out a song, Lake Street Dive.
Yeah, their version of I Want You Back is on YouTube. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
They do a really great cover of that.
She is
You can make
something
it happen.
else.
And their bass player's great.
Charlotte, I'm trying to remember what her name is now.
Their bass player's really great too.
Yeah, but like many people that really have pipes, she started singing in church,
Yeah, she's great.
like Mahalia Jackson and some others.
Feels
Okay,
even.
any last questions?
And then there's the receipt.
Okay, then I'll go back and just review it real quick. The three that are out there, Cody, Plex, and Universal Media Server. You'll find Cody at Cody.com, Plex at Plex.com. Universal Media Server, I'm not sure if they're GitHub or something else. But if you just search for, well, here, let's do this. Let's do an escape. Universal Media Server is universalmediaserver.com, all one. Universal Media Server, no spaces.com. And just to verify, let's do Cody, Cody.com, pretty sure. And that's not the
Cody.
Cody.com.
Cody Jameson.
I have Cody. Cody.org
Net.
or just Cody with no, yeah, maybe leave the TLD off and just see what.
File. Here we go. Well, let me do Plex. Plex, search for Plex. Plex is plex.tv. And if I put Cody in the search. Let's see what comes up. K-O-D-I.
XMDC after everything.
Let me try media server. There we go. Let's try that. Oh, I see what it's doing. Server. Okay, they're Kodi.tv, open source home entertainment center. Kodi is the ultimate. And again, as I said, Kodi is the one that I used as my media server. I've since moved on to a different solution.
Do you have to use the Kodi client to view the videos or songs or whatever, or does it put it out in DLNA? And
You have to have the Kodi application on the server running.
I know,
Okay.
but I'm talking on the client side.
If it's a set-top box like a Roku and that, you just use their media browser.
Okay.
If it's an iPad or an iPhone, you go to the Kodi site and you download it from them.
You can't
basically
use a
get the
third-
app from them. And they redirect you to the proper one on the App Store. Because there's a whole bunch of third-party Kodi apps out there, most of which are crap and not worth money. Where the Kodi one is free. Did I answer the question, Mark?
Kind of.
Okay. Now, if you have a NAS, you can do this stuff with your NAS software.
I was just wondering on the client side, did you
Yeah.
have to use that particular, like Kodi or a Plex app to view them? Or
Okay.
does Plex and Kodi put out DLNA and you can?
If you don't want to use their app, you can turn on HTTP on the on the media server, in which case it'll vend it via HTTP. So you can just use a web browser on your mobile device. Okay. Obviously, with large screen TVs and the set-top boxes, they don't want you to use a web browser on those. They want you to use their ecosphere of set apps. So there you would use whatever they're using as their media browser. Okay. And I'm seeing stunned looks out. Absolutely stunned looks out. Phyllis is just looking, she's going, that Bill, he is not normal. He is definitely strange. So it's 12 o'clock, folks. I'm going to officially declare the meeting is adjourned. I thank all of those of you who came to visit via Zoom. Hopefully, even if you don't want a media server, I've sort of widened the possibilities for you, giving you an idea of some of the other things that you can use with older equipment rather than just taking them to Goodwill or to the sanitary landfill. And with that, I will say thank you all for coming, and I'm going to leave the meeting.